so I have to wait for a certain motion.
A motion for Rodney as temporary chair president.
Any seconds?
I would love to second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so it passes. So I'm temporary chair for now, and as that role, we'll go ahead and move to the swearing in of new members. I want to briefly say that this was also a unique round of new membership coming on board because all the applications went straight to SVSU. They vetted all the applicants that were interested, and two of the applicants they suggested for us for swearing in are here now, Jerry Miney. And Jerry Miney's well known to probably some of you. He's been in the community, in the family of the family of Branchline for a while. But one of the skills that we're going to be enjoying from him is he's got a lot of board experience as well, which is helpful moving forward. And then Tanya, let me help. I want to say your last name correctly. Panizo, okay. So Tanya Panizo, she's from the community. She's not got any ties to Branchline School. She's actually Master Pazino. She's anyway. Yeah, she's a Taekwondo instructor. Does a lot with after-school programs and things like that for kids, and so I think that she's going to be a great addition as well. So having said that, we're going to go ahead and swear in new members, and I think you all have filled out your sheets already. And let me see, there's a third sheet somewhere. I think I just need to read it. So if you guys could just, you don't have to raise your hand or anything that formal, I don't think, but if you just repeat the opening paragraph, and we'll just move from there.
Read it aloud?
Yeah, just go ahead and read it aloud, and then we'll be
I
done.
do hereby accept the office of member of the Board of Education of Branchline School, and I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Directors of Branchline School according to the best of my ability.
Wonderful.
I do hereby accept the office of member of the Board of Education of Branchline School, and I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Directors for Branchline School according to the best of my ability.
All right, please let the minutes reflect that Tanya Panizo and Jerry Miney have now been sworn in as members of the Branchline Board, effective this date. Yes, I didn't even think to acknowledge that, but true. I will acknowledge, sorry, we did have two board members that left. They resigned after the last meeting, which is what has promoted us needing to fill their spots with two new members. One is with us actually tonight, Stacy Roberts, and the other didn't have ties to Branchline. Well, he did have ties to Branchline, but didn't have students at the community, and that was Ed. And Ed is also now moving on his own path. And so I want to thank them for their service, and at the same time also welcome the new members onto the board. So, round of applause for new members. Sorry, I just signed yours real quick. Okay, I don't know that we have to necessarily call the roll, but just let the minutes reflect that the five of us are present.
And we now have a quorum.
And we do now have a quorum.
In other board changes, Ed Zarowski was the secretary, and Alan has become our new secretary.
Yeah, we have to actually do the formal voting on that, but in addition, Stacy was our president, so we have no president currently. I'm the temporary chair for right now. But we're going to move on into the next item of the agenda, which is the appointment of interim board officers. So we need to have motions and seconds and go through officership and try to fill, if you asked that we fill the spots, so I think we should try to fill all 4 spots. Tanya, don't worry, we're not going to throw you into one of the positions quite yet. So don't worry. So do I have any seconds for motions for president?
I make a motion for Ronnie Daniels to assume the office of president.
Okay, any seconds?
I would like to second that motion.
I have no objection. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Got big shoes to fill.
All right. We don't have to vote on treasurer because Kathleen is our treasurer. But we do have to vote on secretary. Any motions for secretary?
I'd like to make a motion that Alan Eden become our new secretary of the board.
Okay, I'll go ahead and second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes.
Thank you, Alan.
And, technically we should have a vice president. There's only 2 members left. And given the experience, I'd like to motion to have Jerry Miney be our vice president role for now. Any seconds to that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Please let the minutes reflect those changes. And now that we have officers, and now that we have a board, and now that we have a quorum, which is all very good things, we need to just have a motion to modify the agenda. So I'm going to motion to modify the agenda to include a resolution confirming the posting of investigation report and our response to the website. That would be right after invoice report, and then also another addition regarding correspondence in the form of a letter from Ms. Armstrong to the board and Mr. Douglas and the leadership team that we will make note of before public comment. So,
I'd
any
like
seconds?
I'd like to second that motion.
Okay, all in
That we
favor?
accept the amended agenda.
Okay.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. So let it reflect the agenda has been modified to this current agenda.
And that's what everybody has.
Yes. They may not have these 2 items, so those 2 might be, the ones I just mentioned might be new additions. The rest of the agenda is as read, or as they have. They may or may not have these last minute additions
Okay.
because it related to the report and
Right,
to
right.
the letter.
Okay.
But
I thought this is the one that was copied for everybody tonight.
it was but this is my own red letter that I sent.
okay.
I don't know if we had
Okay.
quite enough time to
Oh, okay.
make a copy of this one.
Okay, that's what it was.
So this was as if I had handwritten it right now. So
Lovely
I
handwriting.
just did it on the computer. Anyway. All right, so moving into the next part. Again, I want to thank. It's been a difficult year, but I do want to thank all the past board members for all their hard work, and also just kind of take this time to just make a general statement from the board, and just kind of some general comments. Just for a clarification item, the sign-in sheet, you aren't required to sign in, but we appreciate you signing in so that we know who's here. But I just want to make that a clarifying comment. We say please sign in, but please don't make it that as a directive that you have to sign in. I just want to clarify that. One of the things that I mentioned in a meeting previously, when we had a meeting, that I find it sometimes it can feel awkward that this shouldn't be more like a town hall, but it is a board meeting, which is a business meeting. So I just want to reiterate that while we appreciate public comment and we nurture public comment, we want public comment, at the same time it's not a town hall, so we don't have a lot of debate and discussion. And I know that can feel awkward to people at times, but I just want to make sure for any new guest or any old guest that we make sure that we remember that. Regarding public comment, we'd ask that you just address the board, not each other, so that we don't have debate across the room. A, it just keeps things much more orderly, and B, it doesn't cause any problems among the people that are here for the board meeting. And we just want to make sure we have as much decorum as we can. If, again, I don't want to have to go into warnings and all that kind of stuff, I just think we can certainly do that. So I just wanted to say that. Regarding your comment cards, when you send them in, we will certainly do our best to respond promptly to them. Our priority will be those that are focused on more policy, business, things that boards are more purview to do. If they relate directly to other items that potentially leadership or going through, as you see in the bottom of your agenda, going through the chain of discussion, then we may direct it to say, hey, this would be appropriate to go through this person, and we may not direct it in its entirety if it's not something that's more board policy or business related. But we'll try to respond to everyone as promptly as we can. One other item I just wanted to put out there is that for board, sorry, that's really loud. For board correspondence, I think board correspondence is important, and we're going to be making sure that with the next regular meeting, any board correspondence we had prior to the next regular meeting, we will be either paraphrasing or reading in its entirety at our discretion, depending on how long it is, and et cetera, for the next meeting. So that's any outside correspondence. Anything that's privileged, of course, will be privileged, i.e. things from a lawyer or health-related PMI. and those kind of items. But I just want to let you know, I think this promotes openness, making sure that there's nothing, there's no hidden anything with any of the agendas, and that way any correspondence we talk about. And I think that's important. That's important for openness for the board. The very last thing I wanted to say is I want to reiterate that there isn't a big wall or an imaginary wall that ends at this table. I want to feel that the board is with the community moving forward, and I think all of us really want to move forward in a positive direction. We're excited about things to come. We have new members, and I know Tanya is going to have a lot of catching up with what we're doing with the board, but at the same time, I know that she's excited about moving forward. So I just want to put out there that we want to work with you. We're not a wall. We're not here to try to not respond to you. We're here to respond to you, but also respond in the way that a board should respond, and that's business policy and those kind of things, okay? All right, that's just the quick comment that I wanted to make, and we'll move on to the approval of minutes at this time. Does anyone have a motion to...
I make a motion to waive the reading of the meeting minutes from the rescheduled meeting held on April 7th, 2015.
Okay, now I know you guys didn't have a chance to read those minutes. However, I do want to make sure that Alan and Kathleen have read the minutes and you're okay with them as modified?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so first motion is on the floor to waive the reading of the minutes. I'll second that motion. Anyone, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so motion carries. We'll waive the reading of the minutes. At that point, I would also motion that we approve the minutes from the regular scheduled meeting, rescheduled regular meeting on April the 7th, 2015. Is any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Please note that the motion carried to approve the minutes from the rescheduled regular meeting. Okay. As many of you know, and many of you here for probably, there has been an ongoing investigation from concerns that were brought up to SVSU, and an independent investigator, independent investigation performed by Dixon and Wright, and specifically George Butler III, was undertaken and has been ongoing really over the course of the month of March. So we just got this report a little about around 24 hours ago yesterday, and so I want to be sure that I read the findings to you, and then they will be posted as well, and so we'll be discussing them here. The findings are fairly long in sections, so I will be paraphrasing, not to leave out anything, but the things that I will be paraphrasing and leaving out are things like references to court cases, references to legal documentation that I feel like you can certainly read in the report, and I welcome you to read the report. So I'm going to skip over some of those sections because you'll see if there's any sections that I do skip, you'll notice that there'll be a clear statement from Mr. Butler about his summary. So
this will be posted on the website?
This will be posted, and actually that's one of the amendments that we made to the agenda, is that there will be a resolution to post that as well with the response that we have. Let me get a swig.
And it will be posted
And then I'll go.
tonight or tomorrow?
As soon as possible tonight.
Tomorrow.
Yes. Or tomorrow.
Tomorrow when the
Okay.
staff is...
Fair enough, from the staff.
So in its entirety, it will be posted tomorrow. I just want to let everybody know.
Yes. Board response, again, was asked to be done ASAP. We just need to formulate that response. I'll make a brief comment at the end, but it's not going to be the official board response, but it will be a comment based on some factual things that we do know, so it's not going to be conjecture on my part, just FYI. Okay. So, from the report, findings dated April 21st, 2015, to Mr. Craig Douglas, Director, Saginaw Valley State University Charter School Office, 7400 Bay Road. And I'll have a copy of this, so you can just put in the copy of this. It's the University Center, Michigan, 48710, RE Branchline School Allegations Investigation Report. Again, I'm going to be doing some paraphrasing, but I'm going to start now. In the first paragraph, he starts talking about all the people he interviewed and that it wasn't necessarily exhausted, but he went through thousands of emails, etc. I'm going to move on down into the paragraph where he says, I believe the overarching reason for allegations have been made is because a core group of parents believe the school is against them, is secretive, uncommunicative, and engaging in illegal conduct. I will address each of the allegations, but I do find that at the heart of these parent suspicions is the fact that the school's administration and the board have been less than effective in communicating and engaging with these parents. Going on, in the final analysis, my findings are not based upon the credibility of any one or more people over others, but rather they are based upon documentary evidence first and foremost, and secondly, on uncontested statements. I would encourage counsel for the school to share with SVSU the extensive report he already generated in response to the allegations I was asked to investigate because it relies on much of the same documentation and information I reviewed. My report on each of the allegations follows. 1. Agenda posted on the Branchline School website for the meeting held on January 28, 2015 stated public comment is limited to 30 minutes. The posted agenda did state this limitation. Based on my interview with board members and administrators, I conclude that the stated limit was an error and not a deliberate effort to violate the Open Meetings Act. Further, I am confident that the board understands that such a limitation cannot be placed upon overall time for public comment. As the minutes of the meeting reveal, no limitation was placed upon the time for public comment. Finally, the administration did follow the SVSU process for amending and correcting a posted agenda. Subsequent agendas reflect compliance with respect to this issue. Excuse me. While the statement on the agenda is a stated intention to violate the OMA, the board did not in fact violate OMA, as it did not adhere to the stated limitation. No such limitation was enforced at the meeting. For reasons stated below, I also find that the violation was not a criminal violation. 2. The letter of restriction to Melissa Youssef was illegally created and solicited for a vote via the email by the board president. He says the reference letter was subject of discussion by more than a quorum of board members and was approved by those members outside the context of a duly noticed and convened public meeting. I'm going to paraphrase here because he goes into the succession of events, and I will briefly say, and he says the board members' conduct with respect to deliberating about and approving the issuance of the letter was in violation of the OMA. And he says, again, what happened is the instructional lead went to the board president, who sought SVSU's advice, who asked them to seek legal counsel. Legal counsel recommended it be sent in whatever direction in it that the administration believed was reasonably warranted given the nature of the incident. Once the letter was prepared, the board president communicated to the other board members, and the ensuing OMA violation occurred. In my opinion, board approval of the letter was not necessary, as it would have been within the discretion of the administration to issue such a letter. Ironically, it is a shared desire of the school's administration and the board that everyone be informed of significant issues such as the incident in question that led to the violation. The board president could have communicated the letter to each board member separately and even have sought input from each board member separately without violating the OMA. Since the letter was set up as coming from the board, the president also felt she needed each board member's approval, something that could not be done without a duly noted and convened public meeting. I am confident that the board realizes the errors that were committed in the process of issuing the letter, and that is why it formally ratified the issuance of that letter in a subsequent meeting. I do not believe there was a requisite intent for the violation to rise to the level of a criminal violation. For a criminal violation of the OMA, the violation must have been intentional. He goes on to cite People v. Whitney and some other things that I'm going to skip over. His final opinion is, accordingly, I find no criminal violation of the OMA occurred. 3. BLS is out of compliance with at least one 504 education plan. I have not been provided with any evidence nor gleaned from any witness statements that there are currently any violations or even alleged violations of the school section's 504 obligations and responsibilities. I am aware of some prior issues regarding a specific Section 504 plan, but according to the parent involved, those were addressed satisfactorily and ongoing communication was occurring regarding that plan. 4. BLS failed to permit parents to opt out of state or standardized testing. As a prefatory matter, there is no parental right to opt out of state-mandated assessments. However, there is no remedy or action available to a school when a parent chooses not to make their child available for a state-mandated assessment. This debate will result in a court pronouncement at some point, and many schools are nevertheless testing students whose parents have opted out if the student is present. Again, there's a lengthy litigious history, including what some other states have done in this matter, that I would welcome you to read. He goes on to say, the Michigan Association of Intermediate School Administrators has developed a resource for schools to customize and provide to parents. Many parents have misunderstood the role of state-mandated assessments and student information that is made available to certain testing companies as a result of the testing. The MAISA document does an excellent job of dispelling some of those rumors regarding these issues. With this legal backdrop in mind, the fact that the school did not fail to permit With this legal backdrop in mind, the fact is that the school did not fail to permit an opt-out given by a parent. The school has permitted opt-outs. there was an issue with an opt-out submitted by a parent for 2 of her children because it was submitted after the testing of one of her children had started. That child had already been tested for 2 days prior to the opt-out. Nevertheless, the child was pulled from testing immediately upon the request, and the other was not tested at all. That the school may have hesitated to agree with the first opt-out it received, it did so in order to look into the legality of an opt-out and whether a school has discretion to honor it. Having found no clear answer, the school honored the opt-out before any testing of that child occurred. 5. BLS has failed to issue report cards. This allegation is true, and what was sent home to parents was sporadic and incomplete. I understand the reason for the failure is that the school is implementing MyStar as the database for generating complete report cards, and it chose to wait for this installation for generating proper report cards. However, in the interim, parents have not been provided with proper report cards. The school did create a template to be used to issue a report card for completion and distribution to parents at the parent-teacher conferences held on March 26th and 27th. I have not heard any complaints about that template, and that's all he says on that matter. Number 6. BLS has deviated from the educational program outlined in the charter. I find that the school has deviated from a project-based learning curriculum ultimately out of an economic necessity, but also because it was not being implemented properly. The economic issue aside, the board was appropriately concerned about the efficacy of what was being delivered as evidenced by the school's poor test scores. Accordingly, the board effected changes to remedy the situation and has been engaged with SVSU in modifying its program to achieve better results. He goes on to say, I also find the current administration has no training background or experience in developing and implementing a true project-based learning curriculum and therefore couldn't do so. I find that the school is presently incapable of implementing such a curriculum due to its economic condition and lack of trained personnel. I also find that the school represented to parents that it was engaged in project-based learning when in fact it was not. Whatever projects were occurring were not designed to be and were not generating data that demonstrated that the projects were properly aligned with the core curriculum mandated by the state. Ultimately, in the mistaken belief that true project-based learning was going on but was failing to be effective, the school felt it had no choice but to implement changes. Subsequently, it also became apparent that true project-based learning has never been properly implemented and now could not be due to the economics involved. The school's former instructional co-leader was instrumental in exposing the reality that true project-based learning had not been implemented at the school. I believe that this issue, more than any other, accounts for the activism exhibited by a core group of parents and have made it their cause to scrutinize everything the school does. This issue has caused frustration among this group. While I believe the SVSU curriculum development specialist has been fully aware for some time that the school is not offering a true project-based learning curriculum and the reasons why, I find that the school has been less than effective in communicating the evolution of the decision to deviate from project-based learning to parents. What will be the curriculum going forward has yet to be stated to and approved by SVSU, so as a matter of technicality, what the school has implemented is a breach of the charter and would have to be a subject of a charter amendment if approved. 7. BLS combines preschool, parent, teacher, and other private monies with public school funds. I found no evidence of commingling of private and public school money. Public schools are allowed to open accounts for privately raised funds, e.g. PTO, booster accounts, etc., and often do. Public schools are allowed to expend these funds in accordance with their purpose. What is often lacking is a memorialized agreement with respect to what such funds should be spent on. The only allegation I heard was that monies raised for school lockers was in excess of what the lockers cost turn out to be, and there's been an insufficient accounting to donors as to where the excess funds went. I believe this can be remedied by simply accounting of what the excess was, whether it was spent, and if so, what on. That accounting can be distributed to the donors and excess returned to them, if proportionally, if a donor so requests. What many people do not know is that a public school qualifies as a charitable institution capable of receiving donations. Many people also do not know that to be a bona fide charitable organization, it must be able to disregard or override donor intent or restrictions if in its discretion the donated funds would be better spent on something else consistent with the organization's purpose. Number 8, the school leader, administrator, and the board have publicly stated that the charter is a quote-unquote suggestion. I believe reporting parents that have said that they heard the statement coming from a board member and apparently being supported by the school's instructional lead, but I also believe those attributed to having made or supported that statement when they say that it was made in the context of explaining the curricular changes that needed to be made and that deviating from the curriculum identified a charter is a process that many schools go through. As a result of the complaint, I verified that the board members at the time clearly understood that a change in curriculum would require SVSU approval and that the charter is not a suggestion. 9. At least one parent has charged the school leader administration with incompetence in administrating the educational program. I have no evidence that the current instructional lead is incompetent and would caution those that claim otherwise that such a statement could be defamatory, if not true. The The instructional lead possesses the requisite administrator certification and is up to the board, not parents, to evaluate her employer's efficacy in operating the school and serving its students through her assignment. I do not think that there has been enough data generated since her assignment to even make such a determination. I will add here also that the most vocally critical parents are now focusing their concerns about the school and its operation on certain people rather than processes, and as a result, their complaints have become inappropriately personal. Very truly yours, George P. Butler III. As a general statement to this, again, this isn't the official statement of the board, but I just want to say we'll certainly continue to review the findings in great detail. We will submit a response, including plans for action as needed. After speaking with BLS staff, GPS, SVU, the parent community as well, depending on what we need to be discussing, and we'll adopt this as a board resolution at the next regular scheduled meeting. But in addition, we will also be reporting the report as soon as possible on the website, as well as a BLS Board initial response, kind of a draft, on the school's website as soon as we can, if that said draft is really ready, certainly before the next regular board meeting. The last thing I do want to say is, taking a brief moment, many of the things are his findings, and they are what they are. I will make a brief statement to mention that with regard to report cards, we actually discussed that at the last regular meeting. I refer to the minutes of the last meeting regarding a plan for report cards and where that is, and that may be discussed as well today. Regarding number 6, which is the educational plan and the charter, we recognize that project-based learning, as it was envisioned, was not performed. And I do applaud the previous board for actually trying to make a change. At the same time, yes, it was a problem that we had. We could have communicated it better, and I would say that as well. However, what isn't reflected in this report is that there is a plan in place, and you all have heard about it. GPS is put forward. I think all the parents have the plan, and GPS will speak to that later in the board meeting today. And so there is a plan to address this so that, in fact, we will be set to be able to speak to our charter in truth. Also, SVSU will have that plan, but that plan isn't due until later on in between the terms, basically. And so we'll make sure that they have that plan, and then they'll approve that plan, and then you all will see the results, which is, I think, one of the reasons that this wasn't included here, because it wasn't an official plan through SVSU yet. I think that's most of what I wanted to just briefly say there. And then in number 7, just because I don't think that Mr. Butler was aware of this, but we actually already did speak to the locker funds and what happened to the money. That was reported actually by a previous board member who isn't with us anymore, James Kolingowski, who discussed the locker funds and where any excess money did go to and so forth. So that's all my comments on the report. And again, we'll be glad to make sure you all have a copy of it also even as you leave. Man, my mouth is dry after that. All right. So enough of that portion. I will, let me bring this up. Part of the report, we did get an invoice, and it does affect us moving forward with financials. And so we are required to report the invoice from Mr. Butler. And so Kathleen, being our treasurer, is going to state, it's going to state the invoice for you all.
Okay, so this is
Oh,
going,
sorry.
it's okay. This is going to be submitted to Alan. You're going to have a paper copy of it.
Okay.
Mr. Butler has his charges starting from March 13th.
Just
and-
messed it for you. So.
That's okay. And ending on March 31st. I think the most impressive thing is the total of $7,347.50. That's money, I have to say, as a treasurer, that could have been used much more effectively to help the school in a variety of ways. Basically, this invoice includes correspondence from and to the lawyer, SVSU, some parents. It includes preparing for meetings and correspondence with Mr. Douglas, meetings with parents, travel, telephone calls, former employees, and again, reviewing multiple emails from SVSU. Another charge for 4.5 hours for a total of almost $2,000 just for a meeting with one parent group. Attendance at parent meetings briefings, correspondence and telephone calls from parents and current and former employees, reviewing and analyzing budget and amendments, and reproduction fees. So that is the invoice, and it will be printed out and submitted.
Do you, are we required to report the actual line items? I think it's part of what he gave us, so I do think we need to.
I have to read it exactly.
I do think you need to read the line items.
Okay. The date, March 13th, 2015, correspondence from Mr. McNeil, point 20 hours, value $80. March 19th, correspondence from and to Mr. McNeil, SVSU, Mr. Youssef, review multiple SVSU emails, 1.5 hours for $600. March 23rd, reviewing parent communications, correspondence from and to Mr. Youssef, 1 hour, $400. March 24th, preparing for meeting, correspondence from Mr. Douglas, half an hour, $200. March 25th, meeting with parents, telephone calls with former employees, multiple emails from SVSU, 5 hours for $2,000. March 28th, Mr. and Mrs. Youssef meeting, 4.5 hours for $1,800. March 30th, attendance at parent meetings, briefings, GT, correspondence and telephone calls from parents and current and former employees, 5.30 hours for a total of 2,120. March 31st, reviewed and analyzed budget and amendments, 1/2 hour, $147.50. Disbursements totaling $31.60. Current total charges, $7,379.10.
Thank you, Catherine. Okay, that's all the report, financial report and report from Mr. Butler and his firm. And so I'm gladly ready to move past that and on into other business. So I think it's good to move on. Let's see. We actually need to pass a resolution confirming that we will post the investigation report and initial board response to the website as soon as possible. Again, the investigation report will go up as soon as possible, tomorrow, and then our initial response, we just have to have a quick and dirty draft, and as soon as we get some of our thoughts together, that will be up. I don't know that I can promise that for tomorrow, but we can promise to do that as soon as we can, but certainly before the next regular board meeting. So since I read the report, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we resolve again to that we will post the investigation report and our initial board response to the website as soon as possible. Do I have any seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, please note that the resolution passed. Ms. Armstrong here. All right, I wanted to get, hi, how's it going? I had added,
There's room here.
I had added a letter. Again, we had just talked about that, you know, we're trying to be very open with our correspondence. At the same time, we didn't discuss that previously, so I wanted to give you the option, but we have your letter. We were going to read your letter as part of our correspondence as the beginning of public comment. Do you have any problems with that? Okay. Would you rather read it, or? Okay, all right. Alan has it, so that's the next item. We're just going to read the letter that Ms. Armstrong had to Mr. Douglas, the board, and the leadership team.
Okay, dear Mr. Douglas, Branchline School Board of Directors and Branchline School Leadership Team, I wanted to thank you for the unique educational opportunity that Branchline School has been providing my children this school year. Our experience has been very positive, and I appreciate the learning environment that this community offers. My children are benefiting greatly from the small class sizes. Their voices are quiet ones, which in the past often went unheard in a large classroom setting. At Branchline, they are in a small, nurturing environment where they are feeling more comfortable to speak up. I appreciate that the teachers and staff treat the children with patience and respect, modeling how the children and all of us should treat others. My children very much notice the way in which adults speak to them, not just the words that are used, but especially the tone of voice. At the previous school, they sometimes felt scared because of what they perceived as a harsh tone of voice. At Branchline, they aren't distracted from their learning by feeling scared. I appreciate I appreciate that families can come into the building to drop off children, giving time to get to know other parents and teachers, and I appreciate that everyone is welcomed by staff and teachers every morning. All of these things did not happen at their previous school. I appreciate that there is no pressure in regards to any testing, which was very different from the lectures on the importance of doing well on the test that students received at my children's previous school. I appreciate that any issues that occur in the classroom between students, etc., are handled by taking the time that is necessary to work through the problem-solving process together with those involved. The children learn how to work through problems, and the teachers' assistants, and leadership teams serve as role models on how to treat others. These are life skills and character-building skills that small class sizes and branch lines philosophy allow for. Leadership has been wonderful about following up with any issues that have arisen in the classroom, even after they have been resolved, just to make sure things were still going smoothly, which I believe having one person dedicated as culture lead helps allow for. I appreciate the opportunities the students have to interact with children of other ages, even beyond the mixed classes and reading buddies. It really seems to contribute to a sense of community amongst the students. Navigators aren't seen as intimidating older students. Instead, they are known by name by the younger students. I appreciate the skills the students are learning as they present to others on a regular basis. The opportunities they are given to work with others on projects, sometimes with partners they choose, sometimes with partners they are assigned, are important experiences for them at a young age and allow them to develop skills they will use often later in life. I appreciate the hands-on and individualized learning that the center provides. I know my children are learning a great deal and are enjoying the process. They are able to explain what they are learning much better with hands-on activities they are participating in here, leading to a better understanding of material than a traditional classroom provided. I appreciate that the older students are given real responsibility in the school, such as their involvement with pizza days and book fair. These are such important experiences for them on so many levels. I appreciate the reasonable amount of homework that is given, enough to review material and learn good study habits, but not so much they don't have time outside of school for other structured or unstructured activities. I love that some of the projects require them to get out into the world and do real-life activities or tasks. I appreciate the upcoming balanced calendar year. In addition to the academic benefits we are all aware of, I think it will provide more balance to our family's life and is a little more representative of what their schedule will be like in the working world. Lastly, I spent 4 years as a parent aide in Miss Molly and Miss Jenny's preschool classroom while my children were their students, working on a weekly or so basis. Witnessing their dedication to their students and their philosophy of teaching and respecting children is one of the main reasons we came here. I appreciate every single one of the amazing teachers, teacher assistants, leadership, and staff members at Branchline. They are all hardworking, dedicated, intelligent, professional, respectful, and kind role models for all of our children. I understand that this is a new school. Various components may change and adjust as we learn and go through this process. We came here fully expecting a learning curve, changes, adjustment, and bumps in the road. We feel that the end result is worth going through that process and are excited and honored to be a part of the process. We are very much looking forward to growing with Branchline School. Respectfully, Renee Armstrong.
Thank you, Ms. Armstrong. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, we can put that on the, we can certainly post. You might have posted? Okay, thank you.
The only thing is, I just requested it be dated.
Yes, I believe, oh yeah, it is
Well,
dated, but,
in the email, I mean.
yeah, the email, we can put the date from, that's great. Any public comment cards that hasn't been pushed forward, please bring to the front. Last chance. All right, we'll start with Mr. Douglas. I want to just introduce him. He is actually SVSU and our authorizer, and I want to give him a time to address us. Thank you.
Thank you and good evening. May I introduce from our legal firm at Clark Hill, Mr. Joe Urban. He is here. He was instrumental, I think, in taking some of the complaints and concerns, trying to compartmentalize and give me advice in terms of how to proceed forth, which yielded the investigation. My predecessor, Mr. Joe Rousseau, is here also. Joe was the director when you were originally authorized as a school, and so I appreciate Joe's involvement. Joe actually assisted me in the interviews of our two new board candidates tonight. So on behalf of the university, I want to say thank you for allowing us to visit tonight. We routinely do try to visit board meetings, but tonight, given the nature of the concerns, we wanted to be here as a show of unity and support for you. While the concerns were the concerns, I think your hearts have been in the right place in terms of trying to do the best for children. Has it been perfect? Obviously no, Mr. Butler has told you it's not been perfect. But I will also disclose to you, I'm a member of a township board, and as a board member, I know, having sat in the seats that you're in, it's not an easy task. You're volunteers, and you're putting forth, great energy. So from that standpoint, on a personal note, I wanted to extend that to you. I've had a chance to meet some of you in our board trainings, and hopefully we'll have an ongoing, long-term relationship. Our role as the authorizer is we try to work with you and 19 other public school academies. And I brought to you just a very brief snapshot, a profile, if you will, of what these other academies look like. They range in size from about your size to larger schools like Cesar Chavez Academy. And I think I made one copy for each of the board members, so if I could just pass those forward. And also, I don't want to run and hide. This is my business card, so please feel free. If you have questions in the future, feel free to shoot me an email. My protocol and my process personally is if I get an email from a board member, I'll try and keep your board president informed, just so you know. And if it's an answer I know, I'll answer it. And if it's an answer I don't know, I'll research it either through our legal or through whatever back channels that we have to provide. The bottom line is you're here for students. And I really appreciate your comment in terms of kind of moving forward, looking forward. And I would really plead that you continue to look forward. From this point forward, you're up for reauthorization here in another year or two. So, I mean, there's some urgency, and I don't mean that in a threatening way at all. I don't mean it that way. But there's some urgency in terms of making sure you get some processes going so that there's some stability, because I think that's something that we all seek and aspire to see happen. Okay?
Thank you
Do you have
very
any
much for your
questions of
comments.
me from the board?
I don't have any at this time. Does anyone have any questions for?
If I was going to, well, I am looking at the list, and I appreciate the list of the 19 public school academies. I would think it would be interesting if you would include the year that they began.
Well, this was just something I prepared very quickly, and we could probably do a better job, a more thorough job, but I was trying to keep it one side, front and back. But you are one of the newer groups.
Right.
Genesee STEM, I think, came on board that year, and helped me, what other? Genesee STEM and you, I think, may have been two and just 2 years ago.
It just would be interesting, because we're comparing ourselves, these are our competition in some ways.
Well, I
Not
would
competition,
count you
but
that, yeah.
our colleagues,
Your colleagues.
that's what I would say.
It's a collegial relationship we
Right.
want to build. Okay, we'll stay for it. Some of the rest of you maybe not all, but I appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Thank you, I appreciate your comments.
Thank you for coming.
I think we just have one other, again, last chance, one other comment, that would be a final comment from Stacy Roberts.
Hi.
So,
Hello.
welcome on the other side of the table.
It's so much nicer on this side of the table. So, thank you for having us tonight, and thank you for asking me to continue working with you on the Financial and Strategic Planning Committee. Even though I have commitments that preclude me from continuing on the board, I'm happy to continue to volunteer in this capacity. And I want to thank Catherine, Alan, and Rodney for continuing on with the board, despite some of the turbulence and the unwarranted criticisms and some of the turbulence that we've experienced. I really applaud your ability and your willingness to stay on the board. Thank you so much. And for Tanya and Jerry, thank you for serving a term on the board. I really appreciate it. I think that I know volunteering on the school board and being on committees takes work, and a willingness to be accountable for decisions, knowing full well that the decisions you make are scrutinized. It's much easier to volunteer to make cutouts and bake brownies than it is to be scrutinized, and there's a lot of accountability. So thank you for doing that. We have all the parents in the school community want what's best for the children attending the school. Very few have actually volunteered to tackle the really, really difficult task of being on the school board or being on some of these committees. So thank you. And as the school board moves forward, I would just encourage you to continue the process of improving communication with the parents. And I would encourage you to continue the process of defining communications and how we move forward communicating with parents and with our authorizer, and encourage you to use data for discovery. I think until now, we've had a lot of emotion and very little fact in the way we communicate with some of our unhappy folks, and I think we need to really refine that process. And if we're gonna move forward and have an action plan, really require that people provide us with some substance so that we can actually create an action plan and not have a feedback loop that picks up steam that we can't act on. And maybe we can affect some real change that way and kind of take down the intensity of emotion and really build up our community. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. All right, well, we're now getting into the report section, and we'll start off with Margaret and the instructional lead report. Welcome, Margaret.
The big focus since the last meeting has been that MSTEP state assessment. We finished the first grouping. The MSTEP total is a 9-week plus process, so it's a pretty lengthy endeavor. Carrie has been a tremendous support system through this. She continues to be our testing coordinator, and truthfully, I don't know that we would have gotten through it without her. She definitely deserves to be recognized for her efforts. She's created a testing environment that is the most gentle environment we could possibly ask for. And truthfully, even as the students, start to get a little anxious, she's able to calm them right back down, work with them, and it's all about just them putting forth their best effort, and not about competition and not about struggling against each other. So while it's a required process that's not fun, it's one that's gone very, very well so far. And so I'm very appreciative of the support that she's shown and the teachers that have worked with her on it. I will very quickly address the report cards because I know you mentioned that may or may not be in. We continue to work with MyStar to finalize that process. I'm going out to Wayne Reese on Friday to meet with them in person. Still driving through trying to get it finalized, as well as any other pieces of MyStar that we're using yet and want to take advantage of. Worst case scenario, we will have something as we did this semester or this trimester, without a doubt. But that our goal remains to get that all into the computer system and use that fully.
This is a question about that. Have they identified the bottlenecks or the problems? I mean, I know that it's been an ongoing issue, and I know they've struggled with our model, but have there been any bottlenecks that they've identified? I feel like at this point they kind of need to give us an indication of where the bottleneck is.
Which is why I'm going there.
Yeah, no, I know that's why, but I
because
just know if they
the communication has been lacking on their end. It has been difficult to close that loop, and so I'm not on campus this Friday, so I want to make sure that I get in there and get it moving, because it really shouldn't be this stagnant at this point.
We started the process in September.
Not quite September.
It was the fall.
It was definitely the fall.
Right, early fall.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we've mentioned a few times that, while they were very agreeable to doing it, they hadn't ever done a standards-based report card with a school like ours, and so I don't know that they fully appreciated what that meant. And it's very different. If moving into that sort of system, it's much more significant than just throwing a bunch of numbers in a grid and averaging them out, right? So I think they weren't really anticipating what it was going to take, and are struggling a bit on their end with who's going to kind of take the lead and follow through on it. But I sincerely hope that, and then actually Anthony from GPS is going to go with me. He has a connection at Wienery, so that I hope is going to help us. Sometimes it's all who you know. And so I'm hoping to get some real movement on it on Friday when we go out.
Well, perhaps if you also mention that it's caused a problem more than just internally, that may be helpful as well. So, thank you.
So the MSTEP
the first group.
Okay.
1/3 is
1/3
finished.
is finished, okay.
2/3 to go. But it's gone really, really well.
Okay, can you give me a sense again, because I'm not here, about how much time is taken each day?
You know, it varies. So they start with, depending on the test. So there's always a classroom activity that happens before they sit down in front of the computer, which is about 30 minutes. And then there are 1 or 2 activities that happen on the computer, and then there's the actual test. And so it can be anywhere from a 30-minute test to a 2.5-hour test for each one of those pieces. We are giving breaks about every 45 minutes, getting students away from the screens. You know, depending on the length, it varies depending on what's going on, the age of the students, that kind of thing. But like I said, you know, Carrie's doing an amazing job at really reading the kids, seeing where they're at, seeing if they just need, you know, kind of a gentle, like, let's keep working on it, or like, all right, you guys, let's push the pause button, walk around for 5 minutes, get our blood pumping again. It's a lengthy assessment, without a doubt. But I'm truly, in talking with some of my peers, at the last leadership meeting at Saginaw Valley, you know, there were a lot of principals that were not thrilled with it, and talking about their kids being really exhausted. One of my best friends is at her school, kids were literally in the lunchroom going nuts after taking the test. I was like, oh, we didn't have those problems. We were pretty good. I was surprised it went really well. So, I mean, talking to my peers, I couldn't have asked for a better situation here. I mean, it's truly gone, knock on wood, you know, far better than I could have hoped. So, it's not fun, but it's crucial. This data is the basis for what they're going to compare to against next year. So there's a purpose for it. It's not just a testing cycle. It's not just a let's see how it goes. I mean, this is our benchline data, and so as they continue to work with it, and you know they've hired the same testing group on for next year. The state of Michigan has, and so you know we're going to be looking at something, if not the same, very very similar. Hopefully it'll be truly computer adaptive at that point, but it's the same testing group. It's the same information, and this information it's testing the Common Core standards, which is what we're required to do. So it is one of the most well matched tests that I've seen in a while. It's just different. It's new. The questions are worded differently. They're asking them to do multiple things on each question. It's not just a multiple choice, and so it's not something that our students are used to seeing. But it's far better than the MEAP. I think this is a statewide testing goes, this is gonna give us far better information than any of the previous tests that we've used.
Thank you, and then my other question is, have there been any technical breakdowns? Because so often when we rely on technical issues like computers, have there been any breakdowns anywhere in the system, in the process?
Minor little things, which is to be expected anytime you use technology, but nothing major. I mean, I was here with, actually my husband came out to help me over spring break set up and work out some computer things that we were having with, put furniture together. Not really what he wanted to be doing on his spring break, but we spent a day out here and we got out going. Carrie spent an enormous amount of time. We did a lot of prep to get ready for it, and so day one we were ready to go. I mean, the glitches that we have been a matter of resetting the network. I mean, really minor.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, it's yeah.
That's your husband right there.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I bought him dinner.
Thank you.
But I mean, genuinely, I couldn't have asked for it to go any smoother. I'm surprised how well it's gone.
And because our kids are in such a different environment than a normal public school, I'd just be curious what kind of feedback you're getting. I understand that there's tiredness when they're taking the test, but are they feeling that they're being tested and they're not understanding why? They're not any resentment?
No, absolutely. There has been zero resentment on any of our students. And I think it's helped tremendously because Carrie has been running the MAP series, and so they're familiar with her when they walk in. They understand what's going on. There's not a single behavior issue. I mean, they're there. They know what they're doing. They know what's expected of them as far as doing the best job that they can. We haven't gotten complaints. We haven't gotten the math portion was a little bit scary. But that's to be expected, and so she gave them a pep talk, and, you know, they got back into it, and it was really smooth. You know, there actually were a number of kids who wanted to see their test results. And, you know, Carrie just kind of gently said, well, you know, we're just really, this round is just everybody about doing their best, you know, and so it was interesting that they were asking. I mean, I was kind of impressed that they cared enough to say, hey, so how'd I do, you know? But it's been really good.
Thank you. And my last question is, has any parent requested their child to be opted out?
There was some discussion with a couple of families, but as I expressed to them and continue to get information from the state of Michigan, if a student's on campus, we have to include them. If they choose to take them off campus, that's their decision, as any parent can decide. But if they are on campus, providing they don't have a 504 or an IEP that restricts it, those are the only situations that we can opt out.
And I just mention again for anyone here, if you wanted supporting for what Margaret had said, it actually is in the report. I didn't, again, go into all of those legal results, but it is in the report as well, if you can reference that.
Thank you.
All right, great.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you
That's
very
going
much,
well.
Margaret. And I think now we go to operations, and Denise.
That's me. Our implementation grant status, we were awarded $100,000 and we're all very,
Great.
very excited for those things to start rolling in. The application in its entirety was submitted to the state. There were some modifications. So I've corrected all of those and resubmitted the application, and I am waiting to hear back from them on a go ahead and buy everything on your list response. So that's where we're at with that. We had a great finance committee very, very recently. I know we'll have a report on that as well, but it was great to be part of that and to see the strategy planning for not only 15-16 but beyond that as well. So it's energizing and encouraging and exciting. So I'm excited about our plans moving forward. We had our supplemental account audit from Wayne Riesler regarding our pupil account, our pupil submission that went in the spring, early spring here, and we've had no findings. Everything was fine with that, so we're in good shape there. Our capital campaign funds, we've had a few donations trickle in recently, which was just nice to see. We're still, much under where we're sort of shooting for. We talked in our strategy meeting about ways to reincorporate goal setting for those types of things for further success. So that was good to talk about as well. So, yeah, that is it for me. Unless you have a question.
No, I think, a little more coming when we talk about
Yes.
the finance committee report.
Thank you.
No other major issues. Anybody else have a question?
No.
All right, moving on to the culture report, and Molly.
Hello, board.
Hello, Mom.
Thanks for having me. I have some show and tell tonight. Some of it you see around. We'll get to that in just a second. We had our Spirit Week in mid-April that we celebrate Charter Day here at Branchline. SVSU. Because that was the day that we became a school is very exciting for us, especially the friends that were there at that moment. We want to have that be something that gets commemorated every year, that we were an idea and now it's become something that you participate in. So I asked the graduating innovators to, which there are 3 of, to come and meet and create a committee, much like we do with the board. And to come up with some ideas for days that all of our students could get behind and be excited about. So I was fully anticipating needing to kind of negotiate some of these things with them, but they did a lovely job of really being mindful of all of our students. So we had days like Pajama Day. It was a very comfortable day. I wanted to talk about our Tuesday, which was Fan Day, which was not fans that you wave when you're warm. This actually started off as Jersey Day or Team Day. And the kids were, yes, we're going to go with Team Day. And we went to the next idea, and one of the kids said, wait, not everybody loves sports. And so we stopped the record, went back. Okay, what do we know about that? What do other kids like? Well, some kids like movies, some kids like music. So we decided to not do team day and do what are you a fan of day. And it started these great conversations. I loved being in the lunchroom that day to hear, oh, I see you went to see that movie, or you went to see that concert. It started these great inroads to friendship that folks didn't even know that they had across cohorts. You know, we had two friends, one was an Explorer boy and one was an Innovator girl that were wearing the same t-shirt. Who knew? So, but it was that community builder that we had hoped for, and it was something that they drove. We also had Fancy Day, so that was lovely. Tiaras all around. Thursday was our Charter Day, and so that was the one that may have been suggested by Ms. Molly. But imagine 13-year-olds not being excited about charters, but we talked about what do we need to know about what the charter is, you know, that it's a process, it's a contract. And so what is it how does it define us as a school? So we talked about the roots of Branchline, and for the kids who were here last year, that was something that they were imbued with quite a bit. But we asked each cohort to take an element of our mission, and you can see the posters that they created. My little pathfinders did being global citizens, we have critical thinking, and we really wanted it to be kid-driven. So, you know, what is it about, what do you know about what it means to respect another person? What is critical thinking? It's something that we say that we are, and that is important to us, that we're critical thinkers. So that was the one that the innovators did, and just, you know, if you get a second, you know, in between or later, take a look at the things that they grabbed onto that really, it was very personal to them. It was very heartening for me. So, and we also had, that evening had a potluck, which was very well attended. Nearly all staff members and about 30 families were able to come. There was a ton of food, but it gave Denise and I an opportunity to you know, speak as on behalf of the leadership team to thank folks for being part of this adventure. We were a new school, and it's a leap of faith to do something new with people who are new, but we're just full of appreciation for that extension of faith in us. We're having another community, and the last day was Bring Your Stuffed Animal Day, which the young kids really loved.
You can't skip.
No, I can't.
You can't be light on Bring Your Stuffed Animal Day.
No.
My kids were really excited about Bring Your Stuffed Animal.
But again, the idea that the 13-year-olds, you know, threw one in there, not that they were super excited about bringing their own stuffed animal, but the 13-year-olds were right in there too, so. We have another community builder.
I don't know what it'd be like if there were taxidermists in the community.
Stuffed with nuts.
Anyway, sorry, go ahead. I digress.
So we have another community builder scheduled tentatively for late May, which may or may not involve the DJ stylings of one of our board members. So stay tuned. So that's our
You're not
community
in.
building. It's happening, it's happening. Something that we have begun over the last about 6 or 8 weeks has been a daily stand-up meeting with our staff. So every morning at 8:10 we get together, and sometimes it's more pep talk than anything else, but often it's very informational. So things about MSTEP, details that they may need to know, internet restrictions, things like that. But it's really a time for us to all get together, all kind of launch the day together, and the teachers leave from that space where we've been kind of all together to get a good handle on the day, and then they go right to their rooms to be ready to greet their students that come in right at that time. So it's kind of a great, I always feel we kind of launch into our spaces of welcoming and getting ready for a great day.
Nice.
And then, if you don't mind if I just launch into the enrollment
No,
stuff
go
too.
ahead, please.
So I do have a little bit of a handout for everybody.
Thank you.
So my enrollment report, I know there was a question from the last meeting about counts throughout the year. And so that's listed for you here. So our anticipated enrollment on 9/2/14, which seems like a long time ago now, was 113. Actual attendance was 89. And you know that is, you know, looks quite dramatic. In talking to folks in the know of the charter school world, including Margaret and other folks that have been at our disposal, it's not unusual at all, and this may be something that y'all can speak to as well. It's not unusual at all for there to be double rostering, among families, enrolling at several academies and then waiting to see where they are waitlisting and everything else. So, we had a plan in our mind for 113 students, but made adjustments to the 89 that were here. We have had 13 withdrawals since that start of the year, but have added 17 students in the interim. So our current student count is 93. And then we have enrollment numbers for next year. Thank you. And we, knowing what we learned last year, we want to, adjust and do better as we go on. We know that we want to over-enroll to a certain percentage. So, we know that there will be shifts and changes in what we know for right now, but given all the fantastic re-enrollment that we had over in January to present, we have a total enrollment for August of 130, and if you include the waitlisted folks, it's 144. Gives a capacity of about 120. So, and we had an interested family meeting last weekend. We had 4 new entries today. We're running about 7 to 10 inquiries a week. So it's been great.
Okay, thank you.
With no marketing budget.
With no marketing, and not
Right.
even a sign.
Not even a sign.
I'm glad you found us, because we don't even have a sign.
There's a sign.
It doesn't say Branch Lane School.
Yeah, it's not
It just has a pretty little girl on it,
Okay.
which could be anything.
Could be I think one of the thoughts was, could it be a church program?
Yes, it could
Yeah.
be a dance studio.
But anyway, that's good. Any other questions for Molly? Thank you, Molly. I appreciate the report. We're going to move on to actually our educational service provider, GPS, who, as I mentioned, after I read the report, has been...
I'm so sorry.
Oh,
This
sorry.
was a hidden gem.
Oh. Sorry.
Hidden under my papers.
Okay.
So I just want to say that after our big Charter Day exploration of the Russo Branch line, the week after that, asked the kids and parents that we could catch to tell us about the parts of Branch line that had grown important to them. So we actually have a lovely little binder full of
Nice.
loving
Oh,
thoughts about
fabulous.
it.
Thank
And
you.
we're replicating that, and we're gonna send it to Saginaw Valley as well.
Great, thank you.
Sorry.
Well, I won't take the time. Do you wanna-
Yeah.
Yeah, just wait a minute. We're just going to look at it. Thank you very much, Molly. Appreciate that. So we're going to move on to our educational service provider, GPS. Again, as I mentioned in the report, they've been working very hard and have been meeting with parents and doing lots of things for us. So we're going to hear what's been going on. And I also think they have a leadership proposal for us as well to help support moving forward. So, Chris, welcome.
Yeah, thanks. Good evening, everybody. As usual, it's really exciting to be here and to report out. And I do want to say before I even launch into anything I have to say, what a tremendous feeling it is in this room that we have what our board developer, Angie Irwin, likes to talk about as being sort of the three-legged stool of what it takes to run the school. The board is here in this room, the authorizer is here, the admin staff and parents are here. And this is really what it takes. And I just wanted to lift that up. This is just really an exciting time and a great energy in this space. So for those of you who are new to us, don't know who we are, so GPS stands for Global Psychological Services. The company, as a company, has been around for over a decade. Our CEO is Tony Pendleton, and a lot of people have seen him around here. He's helping greet and slap high fives, and we're all in. We started as a staffing company specifically with special education. But have grown as we have seen the need in Michigan schools grow beyond just simply staffing, special ed, into providing targeted services, both for special ed and general ed, as well as now moving into the full-service school management space, working with schools that need that help and that support to find their way. And that's where we are today. Now, in August, the board had approached us and brought us into the fold for some real specific work in about 4 buckets. This is just kind of my spiel, so if you know it, bear with me, but I just want to make sure everybody knows where I'm coming from here. First and foremost there was a lot of turnover in the board. And as we've seen, that's kind of continued this year, and it's been sort of part of the story. But part of our work was to provide some real targeted and focused support for this board of directors. Some of which we were able to start, high-level mission visioning, value proposition, and now moving into some targeted board training, which we're really looking forward to get started. And before I go any further, what I'd like to do for the board, just to sort of refresh our collective memory about what that work is, and for the new board members, I want to pass out our board development process overview. Yeah, that'd be great, I think, because there you are. And this is to read at your leisure. Board members who have been here for a while still have this document. For our new board members, take a minute and look that over. We fully intend, I think right now is a terrific opportunity, seeing as how there's a quorum, and we have new board members in the fold, to re-engage the board in this process and work very quickly to come around to some dates where we can hunker down, do this Board 101 training and get into some of the strategic planning so that we can really support you going into the new year. So I wanted to make sure I put that out there. The second piece that the board had engaged us to work on is from a staffing capacity to provide some leadership in the instructional leader position. What they were able to do at that point, what we were able to do together was arrive at a part-time position. That was what we could do for this year. And we've been doing what we can to help that role be successful, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Another piece is to help create a curricular framework for this school. And we had an interesting charge in that this curricular framework could not be something that was bought off a shelf. This is a unique school. This is a school, I don't know, somebody's laughing at me in my face. Do I have like a paint on my face from the kids' project or something? laughing at me. No, but I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of what we were doing. So what we've been doing since August is very intentionally and deliberately creating a curricular framework that is organic to this school, that's aligned to the mission and vision, that has the ed program all through it, and is organic to this school. And I have to say that you know, it's been a bumpy road, but we've done tremendous work. I think with the teachers in particular, with the leadership team, we have met with all the parents in the school as much as we can around input on the curricular framework. We've created and shared with all stakeholders in the building the branch line ways of thinking. So I want to make sure that the board has that as well, the new board members. This is a 30,000 foot kind of overview of the curricular framework. So you hand that over there too.
So this is the same that you gave?
It's the same thing,
Yeah.
you've seen a bunch of times, yeah, you guys have a bunch of this. I just want to make sure the new board members have this as well. It's really important that you know who you have in the space here. So we've been working through that process. We're right on target. You know, you'll see when you have a chance to look through that, the elements of the curriculum, how they align to the ed program. You mentioned project-based learning, that's right on time because we're ramping right into that. The parents have been made well aware of this, the teachers as well. We have Buck Institute national faculty member on our team who's going to begin that training in May. I mean, it's all teed up. It's a fantastic time. Another piece of work that we're doing is work around data. Last year the school had a hard time getting its head around its map data. Where does it live? What does it mean? Do teachers understand it? That mixed with the fact that you had a whole new host of teachers made for you know, our work coming in to get our head around the map data, which we've been doing as well. And that kind of brings me to present day. To be honest, we have really sort of put ourselves forward to the branch line community as, hey, we'll get in where we fit in. You know what I mean? We understand where there are needs arising. If we're here to help, we want to be here to help and support the team and support the board. We worked alongside the leadership team over the last couple of months on a strategic action plan to address things that came up in the data, things that came to our attention through letters, things we heard at board meetings, things we heard in the hallway, and together as a team we came up with an action plan around the items, you know, the themes and the items that we saw. Met with the parents received this plan, and we've been doing the pick and shovel work on getting these items addressed, and we're moving forward with that. And by all accounts, the data the leadership team's been getting back from parents is that, hey, spot on. Would have been great to have heard about a lot of this stuff earlier in the year. We fell on the sword right in that parent meeting and said, hey, we could have done a better job of communicating a lot of these things earlier, but we're here now. Let's move forward and let's get this rolling. So segueing into the proposal that we're talking about, at the last meeting that we had, we are coming into the spring. There's a lot of compliance reporting that's due. There's a lot of, Margaret mentioned she's gonna be off campus doing some different activities. That leaves a hole here. One of the things that we've been trying to do is help the leadership team cover classrooms so teachers get more time. We've been trying to really holistically wrap our arms around the school and help. And what we provided to the board for tonight is a list of those activities that have to be done between now and the end of the year. They're non-negotiables. I mean, we're talking about school improvement planning. You'll see in that list of things that need to be done. And quite frankly, there's more demand than there is supply. So what we proposed to the board was, we wanna help. We wanna help more, push ourselves outside of our contractual obligation at no additional cost to the board, but help get those things done. And give the board confidence that those things are gonna get done, so that we can set the board up for a terrific year next year. So I think that was in your board packet, it was very short, but if you wanna look that over, and let us know if you feel comfortable with it, and we'll be ready to rock.
Okay.
Thank you,
Does
Chris.
anyone have any other questions? No? Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate the report and again for clarifying the work that's been done that we mentioned before earlier in the meeting as well. That'll move us on into continuing business, which if there's any discussion, everyone's read the GPS leadership proposal, of course, except for the 2 new members. I understand that. You can abstain from the voting if you like, because we do have still a majority and a quorum, as long
Thank
as
you,
we all would
SBSU.
agree.
Thank you for coming.
Yes,
Thank
I was
you.
gonna certainly thank you all at the end,
Thank
and
you.
thank you for your support, I appreciate it. But
Thank you.
have a safe trip going back.
We will, and you keep up the good work. You're
Thank
in
you
the
very
right
much.
direction.
Yep,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Where was I? So if you feel I haven't read it, I don't want to put my vote out there, I understand. I don't think, Jerry, you've seen it yet either. So, given that, we'll just, since you guys haven't read it, we'll just leave you out of the vote. I think that's the fair thing to do. Do you have any questions about it? Alan, do you have any questions about it?
No.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the GPS leadership proposal and have it begin as of today immediately. And I welcome their continued support and help with us as we move forward. Does anyone have a second?
I'd love to second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 3 ayes. And then we had 2 abstentions because they're new members. So please reflect that in the minutes and reflect that motion carried. So ongoing continuing business, financial report. And I know Alan's writing, so he's doing double duty right now, so I'll let him finish writing.
Do you have the email
Um,
that she sent?
Actually, let me try to get to that, I'm sorry. Do you happen to have a copy? I just didn't have that brought up.
Not with me, no.
All right. Let me find the thread real quick. Actually, I think it's... Sorry, everyone. Just 1 minute.
I just want to thank Ms. Molly for putting together this wonderful book. We hear so many things that are not positive about this school, and this is a book of love, and it's very specific in the reasons why the kids and the parents and the staff are happy to be here.
It was important to us that it wasn't just put your name at the bottom of a letter.
It's all very different.
It was very personal for
Yeah.
everybody that participated, so.
Chris, have you had a chance to see this?
I have not.
Okay. It will rock your world.
Thank you.
All right, Alan, I think we're up and ready. I'm just going over the brief summary of the financial committee.
Okay. We have a review of the cash forecast, review and expenses. I guess rather than go line item by line item, I guess based on the projections and some new money that came in from special ed, we'll have the money for all the teachers in September. So that's I think we're 4
We'll be
feet
able to
plus in
make
September.
payroll in September.
Payroll.
That is is major because actually that means that we actually got out of debt within a year, which is fairly unheard of.
Correct.
There is an asterisk, but I think an asterisk that we can work around, and again, that is the invoice we read earlier. That's not actually officially counted in that number, but we're hoping that certainly Mr. Butler can work and it'll still be very solvent through September. I don't think I'm
Dickinson
overstating
Wright-
by saying
I
that.
think Dickinson Wright will exist
Yes.
as a law firm
Exactly.
without our seven.
And that money for September, that includes the addition of a new teacher. So
Yes.
based on Molly's numbers, we're gonna have to hire a new teacher. So that does include that as well.
Nice.
So.
That's great.
Let's see. Note for April, study money came in, transfer 20 funds, 95 fall, 100 supplemental. School debt, Amex and CSU loan paid off in February. We still have the Michelle Matson at around 1,000, landlord about 14K. Advance 2,500, attorney about 15K, and the cash needed for salary coverage for September, which we have, is about 40K approximately, and I think we're about 4K plus roughly.
Yeah, we're around
September.
4K plus.
Yeah. Special education costs, there was an increase to 60K per AP. What's that? Anthony Pelton, okay. On 1415, 91K as per AP on 427. Use this number for budgeting. That's because there's more weeks in the school year, so it's going to cost more for the special ed. And as a note, typically 20% of state funding covers sped costs. 2, implementation grant funds expenditure update, as Denise gave, is that they resubmitted with the amendments for a second round of approval. Hopefully there's no more amendments required if it goes through. 3, salaries, restrict spending in order for BLS to save open savings account for gap month for payroll, license fees, etc., which we have money for. We kind of discussed staff step, increase in salary for retention, access point update recommended 1.5 to 3% across the board based on reviews, which with our new numbers looks like it's going to be a go, I think.
I'm sorry, 1.5%?
1.5 to 3. But I think based on our numbers, I think it's going to be a decent raise for all the teachers, well deserved.
And that would be starting September.
The month after. We want to make sure we're solid for the salaries. After that,
Okay.
as long as the budget still looks good, right, I think effective immediately we're going to approve a raise across the board.
We did discuss that as soon as that money, I mean, that's our priority. As soon as that money, any excess is there, we will try to make sure that's implemented that day or as soon as possible. But I did want to highlight that in case y'all missed that. What we're talking about is raises for the teachers. And we're talking about that starting in the fall. So in the meeting, we all felt that was a top priority, the priority. And it's good to see that our projection is such that we will be able to have a, as far as raises go, hopefully a decent raise. And I hope to continue that trend as we move forward each, term, year, whatever. So, anyway.
There was some discussion around the marketing budget. We don't really have one currently, and I guess due to our financial situation, we haven't been able to have one, but it hasn't really held us back yet. But I think that's something we're going to consider in the future. Spending considerations for the 2014-2015 capital campaign, which is currently at $1,100. One is Raz Kids, a continuous license reading app for $300, and in-house field trip for $900. Is that what they're actually, that the idea is that they're actually going to use it for?
That's what we're looking at
Okay,
right now.
okay. Current enrollment for 15-16, max allowable 20 per grade. Reviewed classroom teaching assignments with current staff at last staff meeting. Reviewed current enrollment, which is the sheet she passed out. So current enrollment is 130, waitlist 114, so we have a total of 144. Aftercare concerns options for 15-16 that need to get, I guess, more discussion around. And then upcoming needs, review budget for 14-15 June amendment. Begin planning budget for 15-16. Must be presented to board for approval in May. action items.
Those are just
Yeah, no, I mean, but I mean,
what I
that's,
have to do.
yeah, I know, but things we're looking at in the future, some action items is, ask SVSU, if any offset costs for MAP, NWA, investigate, LPS, resource shared time, ask MDE, DEP budget due, research SVSU mini grant and competitive grant, discuss Dickinson Wright invoice payment, Alan Rodney, report to board during financial committee report about priority levels, and looking at target markets, retention, middle school transitions, homeschool group for recruiting potentially some more people in some like 5th and 6th grade to kind of fill a couple spots we have open, and kind of our near-term priorities are facility fund. We're talked about starting.
These are in no particular order, by the way.
Yeah, starting a savings fund for upgrading the hub to be used full-time. Again, due to our student increase that we